Hello, everyone.
There's Marina.
Yeah, sorry to be.
Did you click the leave button last time when it said the recording was in progress?
Yeah, please, it takes a minute to click on the right button.
You're not the first person that's seen a new pop-up and almost hit the wrong thing or actually hit the wrong thing.
All right, I guess we can get started with a super formal thing today. I was just thinking because there was that one PR from last week that we didn't finish going over, and then there's just a bunch of other open PRs on the Notary project info, and maybe we can make some progress there this time. So let me set up my. All right, so that. All right, so this scenario 11 is the new version that we discussed last week, focusing on the chaining requirement from the registry instead of for the client instead of from the registry perspective. I think that's really within scope for Notary and kind of less implementation specific. So that's kind of this updated scenario here. And then this 12 is one that we didn't have time to finish going over last week, so we can start on that now. Any initial thoughts before we get started here?
So your audio is a little bit scratchy or muffly or something. I'm not sure if there's anything you can do on your end to get a little better.
Yes, let me see what speakers do. Is this one better or worse?
That's a lot better.
Okay, cool. I'll use that one then. All right. So, yeah, anything on scenario 11? I guess I can give people a minute to take a look if people need that.
Yeah, we'll give them a couple minutes. We got plenty of time for this one today, I think. And
yeah,
just my own feeling looking at it, because I saw when you made the update that does look good to me. I think that's a good addition.
All right, thanks. I'll give people a minute and then we can go over scenario 12, which we haven't really discussed in detail. So.
Yeah, I think that'll generate some more of the conversation. And when people are done reading that one, I'll also drop the HackMD link over in the chat for people to sign in. No, we don't have Steve to normally make that request.
Yeah, I would love to get. I think I forgot to add these things to the agenda as well, so I can get on that.
I put it in there for you since I saw you had said it in the Slack. I went ahead
Okay.
and
Oh, thank
set the
you.
entry
Yeah.
up.
All right. I think it's probably long enough to read scenario 11. If anyone has anything there before we move on. All right. Let's talk about scenario 12, which I imagine will be a larger conversation.
Yeah, that's the one that
This
I
is
was
what
still
you
trying to work out. What's the value? What are we really solving? And
Yeah.
I guess should I start from where I'm reading this and where I'm getting my confusion from, and then we can kind of go from there? Do we want to give people 5 minutes to read? Maybe
I think
show of
that
hands,
would be
anybody
nice
that wants
because then
to. I was going to say show of hands for anybody that wants to spend some time reading in the Zoom chat, or either the little emoji response or.
Yeah, this is Samir. I do want to read it, but I'm unclear. I saw those links pop in, so I'm not sure what we are reading right now. Are we reading what's on the page shared by Marina, or we are reading those links put by
The first
Michael?
link is the one that Marina is sharing, so some people just like to read on their own screen. And that's the one
Oh,
we're looking at right now. It's 66, and we're looking at, from within 66, we're looking at scenario 12.
okay, thanks. Give me a minute. I'd like to read it.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do 5 minutes.
Anyone need more time? Good. I think we can probably get started. Discussion. I know, so yeah, Brendan, you had some initial concerns, questions?
Yeah, I've got a lot of them, but do you want me to jump into that, or do you want to start by kind of doing a little quick overview of it?
Yeah, I guess I can do that too. I think the general idea here is that if you have more than one root of trust, you want to make sure that you're using the correct one first. It's like if you have like an internal one, you probably want to prioritize that over, like, say, the Docker more general root of trust that you may also use for certain images. It's kind of a general overview, and there's some details in there as well.
Yeah. So kind of my thought process when I'm looking at this is our output from this, we're looking at the verification side, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So whoever signed it would have picked a specific key they would have signed with. And so this is just on the verification side, we want to say we're checking that. And on the verification, we have one or two outputs. It's signed or it's not signed. So we don't even have in that output of our verification of it's signed really well or it's signed kind of quasi okay or anything like that. There's no grading of that result. It's just yes or no. And when I'm thinking about this in the context of some of the other stuff we've done, we've said, okay, a key is trusted within a scope. We've limited that scope of the key so that it wouldn't be trusted for anything else. And so you wouldn't necessarily trust the Docker key for your private repo because it's just out of scope. So it would just not even come up with that check at all at that point. So my mental process on this one is I'm trying to understand what the value add is of doing that priority just because we only have that yes or no answer on this, and thinking that, yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that does make sense. And I think that the kind of the difference here, and maybe there's some variation needed on the exact scenario, but the variation here is that looking at, instead of at the scope of an individual key, it's at the scope of a root of trust. And so maybe instead of like prioritizing them, we can talk about maybe scoping these roots of trust, which I think might make a little bit more sense, as you say, because for example, the Docker root of trust, you just want to use that root of trust for the stuff that you're getting from Docker, for example, for that kind of subset of images. Versus like an internal key, you'd want to use that for, maybe that has a broader scope that encompasses the Docker ones as well, and maybe that just has a more narrow scope for, internally trusted images, internally created images.
So do we need a separate issue for a root of trust scoping? Because we've got the scoping right now for individual keys, and then 11 adds the ability to pass a chain. So I'm wondering if the combination of those gives us that already, or would there be something that we're missing from that?
I would say we specify roots of trust, and those can be either direct keys or some authorities.
Sorry, I think you cut out at the end.
I think from the user's point of view, there's no difference. The user just specifies a root of trust, and whether that root of trust is a single key or something that delegates, that's a content of the root of trust, to say it imprecisely. Like in TLS, you can provide a certificate, and whether that certificate is a CA or an individual trusted certificate, that's content of that blob. It's not a differently looking configuration usually.
I guess that makes sense. I think that the danger here is definitely, it's really that dependency confusion attack situation where you have an internal key and a more trusted key, and you want to make sure that you don't accidentally use the wrong one of those two when verifying. And that might be covered by the other two scenarios. This is just, I think, specifically
solved by naming things.
Yeah,
well,
the root
naming
of
the artifacts. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the dependency confusion attack, I think we actually have the solution already on the Docker side just because we don't allow artifacts to be pulled by a generic name. They are always scoped to is within this registry and down this path. And so we've kind of solved that. And as long as we don't break that and say we're going to have a global namespace that has some kind of priority, we've avoided having this dependency confusion attack on our side where other people do face it. And so that was kind of when I was reading this, I was trying to understand if you were solving that issue. And I think if we are going down that path, then I think we're already okay just by the way Docker images are pulled.
Well, there's a tension with the disconnected operation. I think it makes more sense to have accurate names and that then make the disconnected mirrors a separate concept. But it's tempting, and I think at least Steve was pushing towards the idea that names are not tied to locations at all. And that would probably reintroduce the concept of generic names.
Yeah, I think the path we were going down with that was, I think when Steve was going that path, we pushed back really hard, and he did kind of come to a medium intermediate point on that one. Where I think what we're looking at is more than likely the client will specify, here are the alternative names that this registry server, this repo could possibly have. And so you would have a pull this name from maybe a local mirror or something like that. And the client configuration will say that local mirror is also, mirroring these other things upstream. And so if you see it signed from Docker Hub, even though I pulled it from a local mirror, it's okay in this one case. And so it'd be a client-side configuration of defining those mirrors.
Perfect, yeah. So I think we're good.
All right, yeah, so I think we'll call this a special case of the other scenario. I'll make sure nothing there needs to be added, but I think that basically covers it.
Yeah, because if we've eliminated the dependency confusion and then we've got 10 and 11, I think we've already solved 12 at that point.
All right, very cool. So that's basically this PR. And then I have a bunch of the other ones that are open, just open on my computer. We can go through those unless anyone has anything else here before I do so.
Yeah, I saw Niaz had updated his recently, but he's not here to talk about his.
Oh yeah, we can do that first as well.
No, but he's not here to talk about it, and I don't know if there was anything specific he wanted to. I just saw that he had updated recently.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, we can take a look at
which
that.
other ones are we thinking?
All right, I'll share this next one. This is number 41. All right, this one. Well, it's another scenario 10. We'll have to resolve that at some point, but we can look at the content for now.
Yeah. Yeah, this was one that I threw out there a long time ago, and I'm not really sure where the community wanted to go with this one. Do we want to spend a few minutes just reading it? Because it's been a long while, even for me.
Yeah, I haven't actually fully reviewed this one as well, so that'd be nice.
we can at least start on 41 scenario 10 again. Unless people need a few more minutes, and then we can go back to the second one because that's pretty different.
Yeah, and I think this first one makes a lot of sense to me, at least, is talking about basically either using tags or digests to access images, which is something we've talked a lot about.
Yeah, there was when this originally came up, I think a lot of people were confused with what I was trying to go for on this. It was really stressing the point that users are going to refer to an image in multiple ways. And so no matter how the user wants to refer to it, our tool should find a way to verify it. And I think the confusion came in of saying, does this mean that we are assigning tags? And no, not necessarily. More than likely, yes, because of other things we've been talking about, but this specific scenario, not necessarily, because you could have a scenario where the tag gets dereferenced by the tool and then the tool checks that specific digest that comes out of that dereferencing. So the whole goal here is just to say users can run things with different names. And the big challenge that we were that I want to make sure we avoided was in Notary V1, we couldn't verify a digest. We could only verify a tag. And so this was saying, you know, for the users that are running things different ways, that I wanted to have a way to verify no matter how the user ran it.
That makes sense,
Yeah, there's
especially
an
because pulling
extra
by
wrinkle in
digest.
there.
What was that?
Marina, go ahead.
I was just going to say that makes a lot of sense because the pulling by digest is probably the preferred security way to go anyway. So we want to definitely support that in the V2.
Yeah, there's an extra wrinkle in there. I'll comment on the PR. For a multi-arch, you can refer to a single arch image directly by the digest. So the individual architecture images must be signed individually. And I don't know whether then we need to sign the manifest list itself. Probably not strictly have to, but it's convenient. So that's something that needs to be resolved in more detail later.
Yeah, it all comes down to the implementation. So the implementation could decide, hey, if this is a manifest list, I need to resolve that and then verify the signature on that resolved single platform manifest. And that would just be a tooling decision. Because the other option is, you're right, we could sign the index in addition to all the platforms, and then you can verify either one. So depending on how we implement it, as long as there is an answer there, then we would be satisfying this.
All right, so no objections at least here for scenario 10.
Yep.
Move on to
Yep.
11.
Yeah, give people another couple minutes to read this one. Okay, stop me if I'm going a little too fast. I'll at least give an overview on this one while people are finishing up reading. So this one is just saying there might be a separation of time between the sign, the deploy, and the verification, because not every time when you deploy, you could have something that happens in the cluster, things break, whatever, that you may verify again later on after the fact. You migrate workloads to another node, something like that, or a scaling event happens, something along those lines. And depending on how you deploy, you could deploy by tag or you could deploy by reference. And when you're signing just the tags, if you deploy by reference, then that would mean that that signature on the tag wouldn't apply to your old reference anymore. And so I wanted to be very specific that there could be situations out there where we still want to trust an old digest of an image, even though our signing has moved along and said, okay, there's new stuff that we're trusting. And so I want to just say that we need to be very explicit for when we revoke a signature, that it need to be an explicit act and not something implicit that the tag just changed.
In other words, you are saying that the signature is attached to the digest and not to the tag and doesn't just go away.
Yeah, there should be a signature attached to the digest. And it doesn't mean that's the only signature, but that there should be a signature attached to that so that you could verify that again in the future.
Yeah. I don't know if
this
we
makes
want
sense.
to get into the whole automatic revocation scenario separately, but at least as an option, I think it definitely needs to happen and the structure must allow this.
Yeah, I think that this implication number 2 is a very big other conversation, but
Yeah, that
as a requirement,
introduces a lot of infrastructure.
Yeah, and I think we even moved some of that out into some of the other PRs out there. So it's been a while since this one got opened up, and we might be able to whittle it down based on some of the other discussions that have happened in other places.
But yeah, I think generally these two are pretty straightforward usability scenarios that we'll want to account for going forward. So I guess that to help move this forward, well, I can do this. I don't know how much that helps. And then, but then we can talk about what else we can do with this one, because I think this is a not as controversial one, so it might be nice to get it moving along.
Yeah, we've had a few of them out there that have been getting stale. I think there's still a question for how we want to, and it comes into a question that we need Steve and Justin on, I think, of how we want to do like community guidelines for the group in terms of getting things approved and moving forward in the repos here.
Yeah, it might be nice to get some more maintainers on this repo as well, just to help get things moving along and take a little bit of that burden off of, because I think it's just currently just Justin and Steve.
Yep.
All right, so that's this one, and I guess maybe I'll ping people with the mergeability that we took a look at it and it looks fine. And anyone else can feel free to leave comments or any concerns or anything before it gets merged.
Yeah, and if it does look good to the powers that be, this will need to be updated just to handle the conflict there, just because we're reusing the same scenario numbers.
Oh yeah, we should do a little bit of rebasing.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, Brendan, this is Samir. Hey,
Hi,
I
Samir.
checked the name of the site, and he said he just did cleanup. There's not any significant change on it. So he doesn't need to present what he changed. It's just cleanup that he did. At least not today. He's not going to be joining the call today. So if you still want to have a look at it, you can. He said, as per him, it's just cleanup.
Yeah, this one we didn't have it on the agenda at all, so I don't want to force it on us. I was just looking at what was updated recently.
Okay.
So this might be a good one for when he gets back, or when we have a.
Yeah,
a more complete
It'd be
group.
nice, I think, to have his perspective. Yeah. I have a
Sounds good.
continued backlog if people want to continue going over that too. All right, here's the next one in my semi-arbitrarily ordered backlog list. For those following along, this is number 35 on the Notary Project repo.
The biggest challenge we're going to have with this one is the DCO. It's got, Justin's got
Yes,
several
I think-
commits on there.
Yeah, and I think that this one I guess I could just kind of recreate this on my own fork if that would be easier and fix some of that up if Justin doesn't have time.
Yeah, I think overall this one, I think it's a good addition. It needs some rewording on a few places. I do like the out of scope part because I think people might not realize there's some stuff out of scope for what we're doing, and it might help them plan their infrastructure and their design of how they're implementing this. But yeah, to get it to go through, I
Yeah.
think we're gonna, just to get it past the DCO, we'll have to either work with Justin, or if he's okay with you saying that these are, you know, your words as a group, and you can put
Yeah,
it under
I
your
can
name,
message
that
him
might
and
be
make sure
easier.
he's okay with me doing a friendly takeover. But
Yeah.
I think that should be fine.
Okay. Yeah, bring some life back into this one.
Yeah, so if there's any other wording things besides the one that I have on here, feel free to add comments or whatever, and then I can play. I'll message him, and probably with time zones and stuff by Monday, I should be able to, you know, figure out the path forward.
Sounds good to
Are
me.
there any technical questions here? Because I think there's some process stuff that I'll have to deal with. But otherwise, any technical questions as I do that?
I feel like we hit the big goals there. I'm not sure if anybody can think of other ones that just don't come to mind right away, but you know, the big ones out there that they're trying to run your bad code or keep you from running your code. And so we've captured those pieces.
Okay, so then I will make that an action item for myself.
I do remember us going back and forth on, I think, bullet point 5 there, convincing the party to download large amounts of data. That one may not apply to us on the registry side quite as much, just because digest, when you define them in a registry, do specify the size of the digest of what you're about to download.
Yeah, so maybe this is a kind of a registry question, not a notary question.
Yeah,
I
I
think
remember
we've had
we
a lot of
went
discussions
back and forth on that one
so-
before.
Yeah. I'll throw a comment in here. So to learn myself.
I think it was recorded as a concern for any new data structures, and there were some proposals to add reverse links to the registry to support signatures. So those reverse links would probably need to include sizes as well.
All right, just do it to myself. And this is the last one I had up for the day. So now we have 3 competing scenario 10s. It's gonna be a battle.
Yeah, this gets back to where I had the revoking as one of the options and one of the other in that previous one. And so I think that'll get removed in favor of having it just specified in this one.
Yeah, there's probably a way to combine that scenario with this one just to make it a little clearer what the situation will be.
And I think the other one where I was saying that there needs to be a way to revoke signatures, it's just we can take that part completely out. And that way it's just not even a confusion. It's just that, hey, there needs to be a way to sign by digest that you can reuse that same thing later on. And then this one covers the, okay, what about if you don't want to trust that digest anymore?
That makes sense because this probably deserves more than a sentence. So it's nice to have the scenario.
Yeah, it starts a lot of conversations, doesn't it? We end up going back and forth a lot on these. And this is one, I think there's been agreement that we do want to have the ability to revoke a signature on an artifact, but I think people are afraid to pull the trigger and actually merge this one into the repo, knowing the implications and how hard it can be.
Yeah, so maybe one thing we should do just in general is put on the agenda for the next meeting when hopefully more people are around. Like kind of a process for getting these things merged in and deciding if there's consensus to do so. Because I think that this one, I think there's a pretty clear consensus that this is something we want. And we've even started talking about how to do it. So making sure that this can get merged in would be great.
Yeah, I think a lot of the initial pushback on this was, well, we hadn't even thought about it at all, and everything we're doing allows mirroring of the artifacts. And so this broke a lot of the mental models for how we were doing the first prototypes. And so there was a lot of fear of adding this in there. So it would be nice to see if we can get something like this included, just because I think it's an important one for a lot of users. Yeah, our thoughts from the rest of the gang. People still need some time to read this one a little bit. It's been out there for a while, but I'm sure some people, it's been a while since you've read it.
I think this is hard, and the worst thing is that either you require periodic resigning, and that's a hassle to manage for signers, or basically there must be some kind of online check for existence of a revocation, and in that case, denial of service breaks revocation.
Yeah, and that was one of those things that I really wanted to get Marina's other PR that talked about the different options in there approved, just because some of that discussion goes into that one. Marina, did that one get already approved and pulled in?
It's not merged in yet. I think that there's some approvals on it, but there's like a kind of a merging block, I feel like, on a lot of these. So
Yeah.
it hasn't yet been merged.
In my
But yeah, I think
So-
in general. Oh, go ahead.
And this was being very careful not to specify how, just that there need to be a way. And the how, you're right, you can either say there needs to be a re-sign periodically, and so short-lived signatures. And to that, I was always looking at, if we went that way, I do like at least the high level of how Tough was doing it, of having the overall signature on the artifact being one thing, but having some kind of reoccurring short-lived timestamp signature that just says, hey, this hasn't changed yet, so you can keep trusting it. That kind of made that re-signing process a lot less painful to users, just because there was an automated step that was doing that. Otherwise, if you've got the online revocation, there are two challenges with that. One is, do you default to trusting it if you can't verify it, or do you default to not trusting if you can't verify it? And there's cons in either case there. And so it's figuring out which way you want to go there. And I think our discussion previously on that one is that that decision should be left up to the user. That shouldn't be up to us to decide, but the user, when they implement it, if we go that direction, that would be a user configuration option. They can decide, do they want more secure, or do they want to be more tolerant of a denial of service attack?
Yeah, I think generally, I don't know that there's anything we can do to protect against denial of service attacks. So short of, actually, I don't even know what we do. So in a sense, it just may as well just not protect against them. Within the scope of Notary, within the scope of a registry, there are things that you can do. But
yeah, it's something you can't stop, but we can at least give the configuration to decide what you want to do when that occurs, because they're bad options on both sides.
yeah. I'm not sure if I approved this one yet, but if I didn't, I'll just do that now. And then I'll also add a note to this one, see if we can get it merged. And that's everything that I had. If anyone else has anything they want to talk about, any other issues that are open to discuss, anything like that.
None from my side. I knew it was going to be a light one when Steve said that they didn't have the people on his team to jump in on this one.
Yeah, I just figured you guys have a little.
Yeah, but I didn't want to have your stuff pushed off. So as soon as you said you were interested in having the discussion on yours, I wanted to get that in, just because I didn't want the scenario 12 sitting out there for too much longer when we can make some progress on it.
All right, then. I'll give, if no one else has anything, thank you all for coming and discussing, and yeah, have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Good seeing everybody.
Thanks.